This is the Believe in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Believe Podcast Network.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Believe in Pro Wrestling podcast here on the appropriately named Believe in Pro Wrestling podcast YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us. I cannot express greatly enough how happy I am to be back here with you today after last week, which was one of the worst weeks of my life for me personally. I don't know what it was, but for 6 straight days, I could not talk and I could barely eat. It felt like somebody was scraping a razor blade across my tonsils. It was bad, and I don't wish that upon my worst enemy. And thankfully, SP3 and our good buddy Alex McCarthy were able to pick up the slack for me last week and host Believe in Pro Wrestling. And we have decided today for our SummerSlam prediction show to cross that bridge across the great pond once again and bring in our good friend Matty Paddock here. Thank you so much, Matty, for joining us here. We always love getting other people on the show, especially for these big pay-per-view prediction shows and pick other people's brains from around the industry. And for those people who are unfamiliar with your work, good sir, tell them where they can find you, what you've been doing, what you got going on right now.
Yeah, it's the home of fun stuff in the UK. Daily Star, covering WWE, AEW, all things pro wrestling. So yeah, check us out. Obviously, Matty Paddock on Twitter. I'm due to catch up actually ahead of the launch of TNT Sports, or the rebrand actually of BT Sport here in the UK, with Sheamus tomorrow. So hopefully some fun stuff there. But thanks for having me on, guys. It's got a big fight, big event feel about it this week. So I'm very excited to get into all things SummerSlam. Let's do it.
Yeah, there are 8 matches on the card, and I do believe that is going to be the final card. And that means, SP3, as we found out last night, 2 matches that we assumed were slam dunks for this show are not happening. And surprise, surprise, ladies and gentlemen, they're 2 women's matches. Who saw that one coming? We will dive into that. We will dive into all of your questions, comments, concerns. So get in as many of them as you can in the chat. What is going on, Steven? Thank you for joining us so much as always. If you have questions, if you have predictions, we'll get to as many of the comments as we can throughout the entirety of the show. Make sure to hammer that thumbs up button. And if you're new to the show, you like what you hear, make sure to hammer that subscribe button as well as we continue our climb to 1,000 subscribers and monetization. Sweet monetization. What is going on, Safet? Thank you so much for joining us here as well. First things first, got to thank our friends over at BetOnline. We would not be here without them. They are your number one source for all of your betting needs this season and all seasons. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup information on baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available right from your smartphone. Or you can head over to the website today, in addition to using your mobile device, to sign up, get in on the action, and use our promo code BELIEVE, that is spelled BLEAV, and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. And without further ado, what is going on to Noob and Queen and everybody else who is joining us here in the chat? Thank you guys so much. We will get to the card here in a few moments, but let's talk about the matches that didn't make the card, SP3, because you and I just a few weeks ago prematurely gave WWE a nice pat on the back because it looked like they were on pace to set a record. It looked like they were going to have 4, if not 5, women's matches on the card, 4 of them being one-on-one matches, which did not even happen at Evolution. That would have needed to include an Io Sky cash-in, which is still a possibility. Among them were the triple threat match that we did get, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey, which we did get. And then last night on Raw, SP3, we find out that not only is Rhea Ripley not defending her World Heavyweight Championship against Raquel Rodriguez, as originally reported was going to be happening, but Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, a feud 5 months in the making that started when Trish Stratus returned to the company on the February 27th edition of Monday Night Raw with the end date, the goal line from the get-go to be a one-on-one match, a dream matchup, a generation versus generation, best of the best, who is the true GOAT of this business, blow-off match, was supposed to happen at SummerSlam. I guess GOAT versus GOAT, generation versus generation ain't good enough for SummerSlam anymore, SP3. Nah, it ain't even good enough for Payback. We got to bump this stuff to a random Monday Night Raw in August in Canada. SP3, what the hell are we doing? What the hell are we doing?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I think this is the furthest into an episode that I've been able to talk. I was enjoying Rick going off. He nailed the ad read. Then he nailed. Yeah, he nailed. He went so smooth. Right, Matty. He went so smooth into explaining what happened, then into a full-on rant about it. And it is solely because of Becky, but the reasoning for WWE is, I mean, they want to sell out another one. They want to make a record. They're gonna get another record. Their biggest grossing event in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. There is a big time feel. Yeah, it's kind of baffling that Rhea Ripley right now, ladies and gentlemen, is the hottest female wrestler in the world today.
Yes.
How the hell hasn't she defended the championship on a premium live event since Night of Champions? And when she did, it was only 69 seconds. And the time before that, it was only 7 minutes. Like, what are we doing here? What am I not getting? Is they just trying to say, hey, it doesn't matter what we do. We don't even have to put her in a match on the major event. She's still gonna be over. Like, I don't know if that's their thinking with her, but as far as Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, it's like the fact that they did the match early, the first time early, that was the detriment. That was it. That took the luster off of doing the match as originally planned at SummerSlam. It should have been the culmination here with the stipulation, whether it's steel cage or lumberjack or whatever they want to do to keep Zoe out of this, however they want to do that. But like I saw from jump, when I saw the report from Fightful about the plans for the show and that the plans for the show was Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch on the show, I was like, Becky got Bayley'd again. Damn. Twice in 1 year. This is the same thing that happened with Bayley. When they didn't want to do something of the time they were supposed to do it, they just said, oh, let's do a fake match, and then that leads to the real match, but it's not going to be the real match on when the real match was supposed to happen. The real match in the Bayley feud was supposed to happen on the 30th anniversary. The real match for this Trish feud was supposed to happen at SummerSlam, and now it's got pushed back. So, unfortunately, Becky Lynch got this kind of same situation twice in 1 year.
Yeah, and look, this is one of those situations where at least what we ended up with is better than what we almost got, because when that report came out last night from Sean Rossap, I'm sitting here going, are we really about to have this match, a 5-month build, generation versus generation, GOAT versus GOAT, all that stuff that I said, on the 10-20 slot on Monday Night Raw with no advertisement whatsoever? Like, that's what I initially thought we were about.
No, I knew from when I saw the report. I was like, there's not going to be a real match. I knew where when I saw the lineup for the show, I was like, oh, that's not going to be a real match. That if it was in the main event, or if they had like a real segment, but it was a talking segment, and then they were in the main event spot, I could see them having a real match. If they were in the actual main event, I could see them having a real match. If they were in the opener, I could see them having a real match. But at the spot they were at, I was like, oh, that's not going to be a real match. That's just going to set up probably the pay-per-view. They're going to be booked on SummerSlam. And no, got booked for that Edmonton show.
No, and here's the thing, Matty, because there's a lot of angles to look at this, right? Yeah. But this is not the first time that Triple H has done something like this in his year now as the head chief content officer. Remember last year, his first week on the job, what did he do? He pulled Seth Rollins off of SummerSlam. This generation's Mr. SummerSlam pulled him off the card. But at least in that instance, It turned out to be the right decision, first off, because it gave him and Riddle more time to heat up. We got one of the best exchanges we've ever seen on Monday Night Raw with the Daniel Cormier, John Jones reenactment on Monday Night Raw, and it made their match in Cardiff better. It made it more must-see. In my opinion, anyway, SB3.
Could you have not done that by still having a 15-minute match at SummerSlam? Like you could have had a great match at SummerSlam and done everything else that they did. So just because everything they did after was good to great doesn't excuse the fact that they got pulled from one of the biggest shows of the year.
And that's fair
in my
enough.
opinion. That's just me.
And that's totally fair enough. But here's the thing: Seth and Matt still both ended up on the show, so they were booked in a pull apart brawl as opposed to a longer time filling match, because for whatever reason WWE has it in their mind, we have a hard out at 11 p.m. Eastern time with these pay-per-views. I don't get why that has to be the case, but it's their arbitrary rule, and that's what they've decided to do, and it feels like 8 matches is the breaking point. So at least last year when they pulled Seth off, it was still a relatively fresh feud. It gave it more time to build, and they gave a reason for the match not to be on the card, Matty, because they kayfabed an injury for Matt Riddle. They didn't even give us a kayfabe reason for why Becky and Trish is not on the card this weekend. They just said, "Oh no, Adam Pearce just booked it for 2 weeks away."
I think the big problem we have here is we are burning seriously through the goodwill that was built up in the opening months of, if you want to call it, the Triple H reign, I guess. And of course, the lines are blurred, aren't they, really? Because we don't know, and we like to pass comment as to, is this a Triple H call? Is this a Vince McMahon call? Is Vince in the weeds? Is he in the operating theatre? Where is he? What's he doing? What's his level of control? We'd like to know, but ultimately we don't know, and therefore we're having to guess. And I think the worst thing for any pro wrestling company, if you've got your viewers week in, week out now, just as SB3 was saying there, wouldn't you become suspicious that you're not going to see what's being advertised in front of you as coming up next, so to speak? You're kind of on a losing battle, really. And over the last 6 months, WWE have, it's hard not to call it intentional, because they've lined themselves up into so many really good, promising opportunities, matches, feuds, promos, appearances, whatever. So many of these now, they've intentionally shot themselves in the foot almost to the point it's difficult really to defend as, I'm sure this is circumstantial, I'm sure there's an injury we don't know about, or the one perhaps that Triple H comes out with quite often. I remember him saying it after Drew McIntyre didn't win the title at Clash at the Castle, and after Cody didn't win at WrestleMania, and after LA Knight didn't get Money in the Bank. You've got to be patient, guys. There's a bigger plan at play here. Just watch. We're planning big things. You just got to wait it out. Well, I think people are starting to lose patience with that as an explanation, and they're seeing through that, really. I'm not saying that they don't have big pictures in mind and they're not capable of telling long-term stories, but it's being executed pretty weakly across the board at the moment, and I think folks are losing patience.
In the women's division particularly. And when we're getting to the point here where Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus, and I know there are some people out there who have been less than enthused with the build to this match, and that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to your opinion, but there are matches on this card that I would say similarly about, that I have not been as invested in, that still ended up on this card for other reasons. I'm going to Detroit this weekend. This was the match that booked my trip. This is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see Trish Stratus in a one-on-one matchup against Becky Lynch. Now, granted, I'm biased because Becky's my favorite, so I'm going to be more pissed than most people in my situation. But that was the match that I wanted to see, and now all of a sudden it's been ripped away from me, right? And
I'm interested to hear you say as well, Rick, when you say there that you understand there are people who've perhaps not been a big fan of the build of this match. I see that, to be honest. I get that. I don't think it's been. I think Becky's struggled for momentum in recent weeks, and I don't think particularly that this is a match that's been getting kind of.
Uh-oh.
He'll be back with us.
Yeah.
Dropping that knowledge. They're trying to hate on. But
I swear, just because he was about to say something negative about a Becky Lynch build, I didn't cut him out.
Exactly. That's what he did. But no, I kind of agree with him. Like, I haven't felt that invested in this matchup. I would when you there you go.
I don't know. You just cut out, Hoss. Like all of a sudden it just said device is not active. And I'm like, I didn't do that. that was not sabotage.
Yeah, I don't know how we're in a position where, as you say, almost undisputedly, and not a case of opinion, we do have two of the goats here in women's wrestling, and Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch. So, sort of as a side issue here, how are we in a situation where WWE perhaps isn't building this feud as well as they could, to the point where some people are saying, I'm not feeling it, and to the point where ultimately they're pulling it from SummerSlam? How is that even an issue? It's main event of SummerSlam level kind of caliber match, this. I guess obviously, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline, that's undisputed as the top story right now. But any other year, this is a match that could top a card, and it's not even close right now. How is that even possible as a build? It just seems surreal to me.
Yeah, and SP3, you agreed with him.
Yeah, I kind of agree with him. It comes down to the booking of the rivalry and the fact that it just probably didn't get over in WWE eyes with the fans the way they wanted it to. And I'd be quite interested when you said there's matches on this card that you're not interested in. We have to kind of make it a broad spectrum and be like, but is the fans interested in it? Because I see people in the chat mentioning the Battle Royale. The Battle Royale, I don't even call it the SummerSlam Battle Royale. I call that the LA Knight match. That's all for LA Knight. That's for LA Knight to be on the card because he's one of the hottest acts in the company. So yes, that needs to be on the card, and that has my interest as well because it has LA Knight in it. I want to see LA Knight
and look,
get
the
his
only
shine
reason,
and see. I either want to see WWE screw him over again or give him his moment. It's like a train wreck or success. Either way, so I am fine with that.
And let's be honest.
But getting on this card over Trish and Becky.
Let's be honest about something, though. LA Knight ain't on this card unless Slim Jim cuts a check. Slim Jim cut a check to put their name on this Battle Royal, and that's why it's on the card. And I'm not even hating on it. Ratings and revenue is everything. The more eyes that are on your product, the better. That's why Logan Paul's on this card right now. The more money you bring in, the better your product is. It's a business. I have no problem with Slim Jim putting out this money and giving LA Knight his match. I don't care. Love it. I'm fine with it. My biggest question is, why is 10 matches suddenly egregious? Like, we're talking maybe with entrances and depending on how long each of these matches, an extra half hour on the show. An extra half hour, you can get Rhea Ripley a title defense and Becky and Trish still on this card, and you're out at 11:30 as opposed to 11. On a Saturday night in the summer. Who cares?
That means the presser doesn't start till midnight.
I don't care. I don't care.
They're thinking about everything. You got to think about everything big terms. I know a lot of people try to put me into a bubble, but I try to think pro WWE. I think they're trying to think economically because of time. They put 8 matches on this card, which is actually one more than Triple H's average for most premium live events. So I'll give him credit for that. 8 matches on this card. You got to think about like the main event's going to get 30 minutes, probably 45 minutes with entrances and post-match and everything, like, and the commercials in between. Come on. We got a 4-hour show right here.
If you can shrink down Roman Reigns' entrance to around 20 to 25 minutes, you get the Trish and Becky match anyway, don't you?
No, we need every single step of the walk. We need every single step of the walk. We need the pageantry. We need the glamour. We need the extravagance of the Roman Reigns entrance. That's why I said 45 minutes, because usually for entrances and post-match, you're looking at like 7 to 8 minutes. But with Roman Reigns, you're talking about 15 to 16 minutes added on for entrance and the post-match. So that's 45 minutes right there. With the commercial beforehand, we talk about 50 minutes right there. So yeah, like they doing commercials between all these matches. You got to think about all this stuff. I know you're upset. Becky Lynch should be on this card. Absolutely. And maybe you could find a match that you could pull off this card to put it on there. But I think as far as match number, I think they're good at 8.
Here's my other thing. Queen Safette brings up my next point. They should have stuck that battle royal on the pre-show and put Becky and Trish on the main card. What happened to pre-show matches, and why are those no longer a thing? I understand that they used to be looked down upon as though, oh, well, you're not important enough to be on the main card. But I'm telling you right now, these people would rather be on the pre-show at 7:30 than not making the card at all. These hour-long pre-shows that WWE does with no matches on them is kind of pointless. What happened to pre-show matches? Why isn't that a thing? Because the Slim Jim Battle Royal is made for a pre-show. It's made for a pre-show.
Can you go back to it now? Now you've kind of binned pre-show matches. Can you, apparently for that reason, it would seem. Can you go back to that now? Is that not?
I mean, if NXT can pull Raw Underground back from the dead, I think we can pull back premium live event pre-show matches.
And they do it on NXT. They had a kickoff matchup on their Great American Bash show on Sunday. So it's not out the realm of WWE possibility, but this is what WWE wants to go. And I don't know whether that's down to WWE saying, "Oh, it doesn't look good for us to have a match with empty seats around when we're promoting this extravagant, big time stadium event." And especially with stadiums, empty seats stand out more in a stadium than it does in an arena where you can do lighting and stuff like that. And especially at that time in Detroit, it's probably going to be a light out. So it's going to be very noticeable. So I understand why they don't do the pre-show matches. I honestly say do away with hour-long pre-shows. If that's the case, do a half an hour of your talking heads. I'm totally fine with a half an hour of talking heads, but an hour? So they did 2 hours for WrestleMania 2 years ago. I don't know if they did 2 hours this year. I forget. It's a blur.
I don't know. We had technical difficulties in the press box, so I have no idea how long they were going on.
But yeah, like they are ridiculous with that talking heads. If they made it 30 minutes, it'd be a lot doable with no pre-show matches. But I get the reasoning behind no pre-show matches a little bit.
Our boy Greg Bush says, did they ever explain what the winner of the Battle Royal gets, or are we getting a pointless Battle Royal instead of Becky and Trish? Yeah, no, they didn't explain. It's a Battle Royal. That's it. It's winner gets momentum. Winner gets momentum.
The big
It's the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. That's what it is. That's what it is.
The Big Mo, as Jonathan Coachman once said. The Big Mo. It's all about momentum.
Steven Chambers says the winner gets a lifetime supply of Slim Jims. Now we're talking. I would throw down for that. Like I would be chucking bodies, just chucking them over the top rope. I think, as pissed off as I am that Becky and Trish is not on this card, though, to me the more
that's really not coming across. Are you unhappy about that?
The fact that Rhea Ripley is not defending the World Heavyweight Championship. As long as her and Raquel are legitimately healthy enough to do so, that's a problem. Like that is a major problem, and especially SP3.
I think I said that from the very beginning. Like I was like, I understand Rick, you're a Becky Lynch fan.
I know,
but the more egregious point of this is Rhea Ripley. But we spent 20 minutes talking about Becky Lynch,
and that is why I want to circle back to Rhea right now, because this is a trickle-down effect for the rest of the roster. Because not only are you screwing Rhea out of her match, but remember, SP3, they did not do Rhea versus Becky at SummerSlam because they were going to do Becky versus Trish at SummerSlam, which meant that they set up Rhea's next challenger to either be Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez, which means, by the way, think about this, SP3. In the last 4 months, we have had 4 title changes with the women's tag team championships to set up singles feuds, and 2 of the damn feuds didn't even make the card. They took the women's tag team titles and made them pawns 4 times in the last 4 months to set up 4 different singles feuds before they finally landed on Chelsea and Sonya. And then, oh, by the way, Chelsea and Sonya don't have a match this weekend, and their first match as champions, they were fed to Charlotte and Bianca in a Can They Coexist segment on SmackDown that could have been handed to Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, who have not been seen in weeks. I'm pretty sure this is exactly why Sasha and Naomi quit The last damn time that y'all did this. And they've now done it 5 times in 4 months.
I just want to I'll be here, and I'll be like setting up chairs and at this table when we want to have that conversation about Triple H not being good about women's booking. But while I'm here setting the table and setting up chairs for everybody else who want to come and have the conversation, because it hasn't been really good the past year. You have to look at everything on this landscape and realize that regardless of the booking over the past year, they've had one really, really great thing happen. Rhea Ripley has kind of evolved and found herself, and she's the hottest female star, one of the hottest stars regardless of gender in professional wrestling today. Everybody was waiting for the crumbling down of the bloodline, and I think the next great turn is when Rhea Ripley decides she's going to turn on Dominic Mysterio and become the biggest babyface female that we've seen since Becky Lynch in 2018-19. So I'm just ready for that. I think that WWE doesn't really understand what they have right now. I think they get that she's hot, but I don't think they get that she can be the biggest female star, even bigger than Becky Lynch probably in 2018, 2019. Yeah, but they just don't seem to kind of realize that. Like, you can open up a whole new world, especially if she turns on Dominic, and the intergender matchup, that needs to be on like a SummerSlam WrestleMania match in itself. Dominic versus Rhea. Come on, book it right there. She could go against the whole male roster in intergender matches. That's why Rhea Ripley could be even bigger than what Becky Lynch was, and it doesn't seem like they get it. They just having her hold around the title, having her get into these feuds. They're presenting her like she's a star, like she's a dominant heel, but I don't think they get that they have somebody right now that can be on that Roman Reigns level. I don't think they really understand that right now. It doesn't seem like that from the booking. Maybe it is on the inside, and I don't know something, but the fact that she's not on this card and the best that we can do for her is standing outside during Finn Balor's matchup against Seth Rollins, that's a damn shame. That feels like a damn shame. I know she's dealing with injuries. I know she's dealing with a lot, but there just seems like there's another way. A mixed tag match with Dominic and Rhea. If she's injured, there's ways around it. She can wrestle, obviously. She had a good matchup with Lyra Valkyria. We could have set up a mixed tag feud for Dominic and Rhea, so Rhea doesn't have to work the whole matchup. Work 5 spots, do 2 bumps, do a couple of spots, dominate the.
They found a way to put Ronda Rousey in WrestleMania, and she couldn't move.
I just booked it for you. I just booked the match for you.
SP3, I don't think it's the fact that they don't realize it. I think they realize it. They just don't prioritize it. They don't prioritize the women's division. And Matty, honestly, what's the motivation to change? Because every single week we get some press release about how they're shattering records and they're selling out tickets and the ratings are higher than they've ever been. And what's the motivation to change? Why fix what isn't broke right now?
Are we, as ridiculous as this sounds and as outrageous as this sounds, have they worked themselves in a position with Rhea now where, because she's been so dominant up against some of the top male performers, that they almost feel, I wouldn't say weakens Rhea, but somehow her character is diminished by working with other women in the roster? As stupid as that sounds, it feels almost like they see the value in her working with men and not with women, and that's a ridiculous situation.
You hit it right on the nose. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy from us fans that WWE has heard, where all the fans immediately, because of how they presented Rhea, have compared her to China, and I don't think a lot of those fans even lived through China and realized the difficulty and the obstacle of booking China was that she could never work with the woman, and when she did, it was the end of her career.
Yeah. Because you can't really.
And Rhea came up working with women. Don't make her as bigger than she feels. You feel like she's lowering herself by working with women. It feels like they are getting to that point. Matty hit it on the nose.
And that's the thing, because I think, having kind of, as you said, lived through China, I think from memory, Rhea is in a position now, especially if she goes on this way for another year or two, that she she surpasses Chyna's career for me, even if she doesn't win maybe a male title in the way Chyna did or whatever. But she surpasses that. But I don't think that's a good thing for Rhea. I think that's absolute doomsday for her because, I don't know how you ever build back up any female competitor to be her equal, really.
I mean, she's got, at least from and I get it, she's a really physically imposing woman, but you have people on the roster who can go toe-to-toe with her, Raquel Rodriguez being one of them, Bianca Belair being another. I mean, Becky Lynch from a frame standpoint is a bit of a mismatch, but from a star power standpoint, that's a match you should be building toward and should be a SummerSlam match. But again, you wanted to do Becky and Trish at SummerSlam, and now you're not even doing Becky and Trish.
I don't think that was the thing. I think if people say, if you say people are saying that, oh, they didn't do Becky and Rhea at SummerSlam because they wanted to do Becky and Trish. No, they wanted to do Becky and Rhea at WrestleMania. That's why they didn't do Becky and Rhea at SummerSlam. And that was the thing to do with Becky Lynch because she's a star of that star power. Put her in there with a Hall of Famer in Trish Stratus, but they never figured out what to do with Rhea Ripley. That's the issue here. That's the bigger problem.
Well, they figured it out, but they did it apparently too late to put it on the damn card. Maybe Liv Morgan was the plan, but she got hurt. But okay, then pivot to Raquel. Maybe they still add that. I don't know. There's still time, but we know we're not getting Becky and Trish. Let me ask one question. What Hall of Famer? Granted, they never advertised the match, so technically they didn't cut it. We're going off of reports here, so that there's one caveat to that. But what Hall of Famer, what other Hall of Famer would get booked for a show and then get pulled from it?
I have to add as well, I think, pound for pound, I think Trish as a heel has been wildly entertaining, by the way. I don't know if I'm trying to read the room as to whether I'm in the minority there, but I've not realized how, especially on the mic as well, she's quite underrated in kind of how she delivers that role. I just feel it's almost been a little bit wasted, really.
I do find it somewhat fitting that in the summer, that is Trish is Trish getting to live out all of the opportunities that were not available during her heyday. WWE ends that summer by going back to the Divas era and cutting her match. Appreciate everybody who is tuning in to the chat right now. Yes, Stephen Chambers, thank you, Trish, because she is.
Thank you, Trish.
Yes,
show some love to Trish.
Seriously,
I mean, there's been other Hall of Famers that had matches pulled or had matches postponed to another time for different reasons, and we don't know what the real reason is with Becky and Trish. But man, Trish, I agree with Matty. She has been entertaining. Loved her promo last night. Just coming, trying to save the promo around, which was not going too well. She turned it around with her humor. So yes, Trish has been good in her role.
We appreciate everybody who's in the chat. Give us a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And keep getting your comments in. We'll get to as many of them as possible. Let's dive into this card, shall we? Again, we have 8 matches, and let's talk about the Slim Jim extravaganza to start things out. The SummerSlam Battle Royal. We do not know all of the participants, but Matty, we probably know the participant that truly matters, and which is LA Knight. He has to be the odds-on favorite to win this matchup. I have not looked at the betting odds. Who do you like in this one?
I would agree with you, but it's not happening, is it? Surely, because I believed more than anything else that LA Knight was winning the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. I was there for SmackDown and Money in the Bank. He was like, the crowd was so hot for him. I don't think they care really. And like you said, really, what is winning this Slim Jim SummerSlam Battle Royal actually going to achieve for LA Knight anyway? What pedestal does that put him on? I don't think, as we said, they've not actually announced in terms of where that takes you next in line. I'd love to think it's LA Knight, but I think presumably one of the other still, I don't know, I guess you need at least maybe 10, 15 other competitors still to be announced. There's one of them in there somewhere. Perhaps I'm just reversing it in my own mind, and that we will get LA Knight with his hand raised, but I can't see it.
I mean, last night we found out that Nakamura is going to be in there. Tommaso Ciampa is going to be in there. Bronson Reed probably going to be in there. We know Sheamus is going to be in there as well, SP3. Which one is it? Is LA Knight going to finally win literally anything, or do they go with a swerve and give us somebody else? Because this match truly doesn't really even matter at the end. It's just collecting a revenue paycheck.
You also got Alpha Academy and Imperium, and I don't know what they're doing with the Ludwig Kaiser push. Ludwig Kaiser
Ludwig
may be a
Kaiser.
dark horse. Ludwig Kaiser might be a dark horse to win the battle royale, but Matty hit it on the nose and then went away from it. The reason why LA Knight's gonna win is because it doesn't mean anything. And I said the reason why he wasn't gonna win Money in the Bank is because WWE then had to answer a key question with LA Knight. And then what?
Yeah,
That's why they couldn't put the Money in the Bank on him. With this, he can win and they don't have to care about. And then what? It'd just be like, maybe we'll get the US title around. Maybe, I don't know, we'll take advantage of this hotly over guy that gets cheers everywhere, gets everybody chanting his name before the show even starts and stuff. Maybe they'll take advantage of it someday. Maybe not. But they don't have to answer the then what. So this seems like a great spot to give him a win.
It does seem like a spot, but I've kind of reached the point where I'll believe he wins anything when he wins anything. I thought it was a slam dunk that he would at least get to the finals of the U.S. title invitational tournament. And then he didn't even do that. They decided to throw away Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio, which they should be building toward for next year's WrestleMania, in my opinion. And they decided to do it on a random SmackDown in July as a qualifier for the United States title. And then unfortunately it ended early because Rey got hurt. Like LWO versus LWO. What? We keep hearing these reports, and I feel like we've been hearing reports since what? November, that a push is coming for LA Knight, and we're still not there yet. At some point, you've got to pull the trigger. But at this point, I don't know what that push looks like. You didn't want him to be Mr. Money in the Bank. Okay, fine. You didn't even want him to challenge for the United States title. So what does a push look like for LA Knight? Like, what is it? Let's forget a push. Let's start with a story. What's his story? Who's his rival? Let's start simple here. This match doesn't matter at all in the grand scheme of things because it has no stakes. So I'm going to pick Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley wins the Battle Royal by taking out all the dudes in the damn field, and that's it. She just takes over. Or she helps Dominic win. Either way, that's it. It's Judgment Day wins the Battle Royal. That's where I'm going. So I'm going with it.
Seems likely.
That's how they get Rhea on the card. That's how they get Rhea on the card. That's how they get her in action. She either eliminates 12 dudes to help Dom win, or she just takes it her damn self. That seems like something WWE would do in this situation, so that's what I'm going with. If there was, though, gentlemen, like we've been harping on the negative, and I hate doing that. If there is further proof outside of the Bloodline storyline and outside of what they have been doing with most of Judgment Day, WWE can create really great content when they are motivated to do so. And last night, we saw two of the best character performances by Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler in their entire damn careers. Those two-part interview segments that they did were spectacular. Drawing off of real-life story between these two, and suddenly, in the blink of an eye, you had an entire audience that went from, okay, hopefully this leads Shayna Baszler on to do good things as Ronda Rousey's about to exit the company again, to, holy shit, I can't wait to see this match. And these two are going to be throwing down in an MMA rules match, which I think rules, to be completely honest. We know WWE can do good stuff, and they have done this with Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. It seems like a foregone conclusion, SP3, that Shayna Baszler will win this match. And hopefully that leads to good things. I'm picking Shayna to win this, but what they did last night with these two was spectacular.
I have never seen WWE like stick the landing like this. It was like they were a plane that had turbulence and was going all like this. And then when they were about to land, they just gently did like this. And they landed perfectly. They landed perfectly on the target. And oh my God, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey made me so invested in this match that I said that the build for this matchup might be my second favorite on this whole card, because they made sense of the topsy-turvy kind of frantic booking of this whole situation. They explain why Shayna Baszler would just out of nowhere beat down Ronda Rousey at Money in the Bank. They explained why every week it seemed like Shayna was a heel and a face. They explained why every week it seemed like Ronda was a heel or a face. They explained all of that because both video packages presented them as both heels and faces, because in their story, in their individual story, they're the wrong person in this whole thing. In Ronda Rousey's eyes, she's the king that opened her arms to the person who was struggling and propped them up and brought them to the big time in two different sports. And now they're biting the hand that fed them and gave them too much. They got resentful and entitled to what the king was giving them. Whereas Shayna Baszler is like this king who just brings you into their house and beats you up all the time. And now I have to look at her daughter that I love, and I have to know that at what I'm about to do to her mother. Oh my God, it was just amazing. The both of them crying. It felt like a UFC style documentary of a fight that was about to happen. This was some of the best work WWE has done this year, some of the best work Ronda Rousey has done in her entire WWE career, and as far as talking, probably her entire career going back to UFC. And Shayna Baszler showed why they need to strap the rocket to her. And if you want another challenger for Rhea Ripley on Monday Night Raw after SummerSlam, Shayna Baszler's right there for you.
Yeah, Matty, it's it's almost a shame that Ronda's leaving, because it feels like they stumbled upon the formula to make her a really successful performer to match the prowess that came in with her in the company.
Yeah, and I know it's kind of that wishy-washy thing we do whenever we get a feud of any kind in kind of the latter second half of the year, that we kind of like, I hope they can stretch us out to WrestleMania. But I really did hope maybe that this would be something that could be long enough, and maybe we'd get Shayna and Ronda at WrestleMania. That's not happening this year. Obviously, the report's fairly widespread that Ronda's on her way soon. But I don't know about you guys, but I felt almost a level of ignorance on my own part, really. I had no idea until maybe a month ago that Shayna was so good on the mic. I had no idea, because we never get the opportunity in WWE really to see her speak a great deal. I think it might have been the Raw promo after Money in the Bank, I think possibly. But I just thought, oh my goodness, like I want to listen to what she has to say. She has legitimate gripes here with this woman that has been a friend for all these years. And it's an actual, genuine, relatable story, and it's got people hooked. It's just a shame that we've only got 2 or 3 weeks to enjoy it.
So who's winning?
Yeah, my biggest nitpick was that I wanted more weeks of this. Why didn't you do this last week? So we get 2 weeks of these. We get 4.
Because SP3, this wasn't WWE. This ain't WWE women's dialogue. This isn't WWE women's story. This was Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler saying, this is what we're doing. And WWE going, it's Ronda. All right, just do what you want. And then it freaking worked. This should be a lesson learned for WWE. Listen to your damn talent and do relatable stories. It's not hard. Matty, who wins?
For my money, I think Shayna leaves Ronda in a bloodied heap. I think Ronda's basically saying, I'm on my way out. You're my best buddy. Do what you want to me. And I think it's going to be an absolute massacre.
She still has not definitively been beaten in a match, at least not one-on-one. There's always been some kind of circumstance, some kind of outside interference, some kind of anything. If Ronda is gone, have Shayna Baszler wipe the fucking floor with her. Like, seriously.
I don't know if we know, is it out there, what Ronda's contractual status is as to whether, she has these breaks sometimes. To be honest, it comes across as though she's got to a point where she can take a leave pro wrestling, to be honest. So if this is her done, then sure. Take a beating on the way out. I'm sure she will.
Yeah, and if anybody she was going to do that for, it's going to be Shayna Baszler, and hopefully it leads somewhere.
I'm also going with Shayna Baszler, by the way.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much. This matchup was set up way back at the Royal Rumble. I am happy to see Ricochet getting this spot on a major show against Logan Paul. Look, this one has a chance to make highlight reels for years to come. It feels like Logan Paul has been on a bit of a skid. Great matches, but he hasn't been winning a whole lot. This feels to me like this is a match that he can win, and then he can have Samantha say his name as the ring announcer, and maybe you can even continue this feud on a little bit further. I'd like to see Ricochet get a big win on the stage, but this feels like it's set up and made for Logan Paul through nefarious tactics to beat Ricochet in this matchup. I'm going with Logan Paul. SP3, what say you?
I was going with Logan Paul this whole week. I thought it was a perfect opportunity to give him a big win on a big pay-per-view, but I'm honestly gonna go with Ricochet after last night's Monday Night Raw, because it just feels like you can't make him get sunned out. You get man talked about your girl, and then you got knocked out, and then you get beat at the pay-per-view. Like, there ain't no coming back for that for Ricochet. You can't come back on a basketball court for that. You can't even get your mom some milk in the hood if that happened to you. Like, nah, man. Like, he gotta win. So I'm going with Ricochet.
Matty?
I'm with you. I'm afraid. I was thinking today it has to be Logan Paul's match because he's put in some great performances. Yeah, he gets the social media and the viral moments, but this is WWE, and winning and losing ultimately still matters to a degree, at least. And he never wins. So for me, Ricochet gets a great showing. He gets put over, whatever. He looks $1 million. He's got a singles match on a SummerSlam card. That's it's great progress for him. But yeah, I see Logan with his hand raised.
What was the last big singles match that Ricochet had? Wasn't it that 2-minute squash match for the WWE Championship in Saudi Arabia?
I have no doubt that, but before he wins through the back door, as you say, he's going to make Ricochet look $1 million. I genuinely feel Logan Paul is invested in doing that as well, to be honest. As much as he comes across and cuts this character of a guy that really could take or leave pro wrestling, I think he loves it. I think he cares about how his opponent looks, so he's going to do a good job, I think.
Chase saying, this is what I want Logan Paul to do, is use his outside, power and popularity to get good dudes like Ricochet out there. And yes, I think that is a great way to utilize Logan Paul and bring him in, not only to bring more eyes on the product, but to help elevate some of the other guys. This matchup is going to be painful to watch, but I'm going to enjoy every freaking second of it. Gunther, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre was my favorite match of WrestleMania weekend. I could have watched those three dudes beat the ever-loving crap out of each other for several more minutes than what we actually got in Los Angeles. I'm glad that Drew is back. The build up to this match has kind of been hit or miss, mostly because Drew has had other obligations. I believe he's filming a movie. Is that what I saw? But he's not been there for half of it. So this match feels a little bit rushed just because Drew hasn't been around. I am genuinely concerned though here, SP3, because there's a real chance that Drew McIntyre wins this. And there is no way in hell that Gunther should drop that Intercontinental Championship before he passes the Honky Tonk Man's record. And he's still about 60 some odd days shy at this point. So I'm hoping that this is the start of a series and not a one-off in which Drew McIntyre takes the title because they got to do something to keep Drew happy, because that contract is still coming up soon.
Still lurking here. I think that is the start of a storyline, but I think it's the start of the Drew McIntyre slow burn heel turn, as he cannot beat Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. I got Gunther winning. I think this is going to be a barn burner. It's going to be hard hitting. It's going to be physically intense. And it's going to be, in my opinion, the match of the night and probably a match of the year candidate, knowing Gunther when he's in the ring with someone as good as Drew McIntyre.
Matty, this one's got to hold a special place in your heart.
I was so sad for Drew back at Clash at the Castle, because I was convinced I bit hard on the finish in the main event there. I really thought it was going to be Drew's moment, and I guess we put two and two together and thinking that those were the creative differences, that kind of thing that led to Drew's absence. We'll never know if that was really the case, of course. Triple H
or singing with Tyson Fury afterwards, probably.
Well, that too,
why I would be upset.
But despite the fact that I was so invested in Drew, I have to say I am deeply, passionately in love with Gunther as Intercontinental Champion. It's just everything about it is perfect. Imperium is perfect. Ludwig Kaiser is perfect. Gunther is perfect. And yeah, of course, it doesn't end this weekend. Of course it doesn't. My only thought is, how do they get to that point? Because for me, they've had Gunther win through questionable tactics and through interference so many times. I mean, if that's the case again at the weekend, I think that really kills Drew a little bit. I don't know whether there's a return coming somewhere or whether there's an outside factor that we're not thinking maybe, but yeah, definitely Gunther for the win, but I'm not quite sure how they get there.
Steven
Well,
Chambers
when you look at his actual title defenses, he never uses Imperium for the title defense. It's only been on these non-title matches on TV against Owens and Zayn that he has used their help. When it comes to like the Mustafa Ali at Night of Champions or Riddle at Money in the Bank, he beat the hell out of them on his own. Like he's been able to retain the title on his own. So I think that it is a good spot where we could use Imperium to protect Drew McIntyre, and he uses Imperium. Maybe either Giovanni takes the Claymore for him, trying to get back on his good side, or it's Ludwig again who is the person who's the key factor, further bringing Giovanni down by just a position.
Steven Chambers, do you guys see Ilya Dragunov joining Imperium? I'm not sure. I don't know, but I wouldn't use him in this situation. For me, honestly, I'll let you chime in on that, SP3. For me, honestly, the story of this match, and you brought it up, SP3, it's the redemption of Giovanni Vinci. Like, he needs to get back on Gunther's good side. So that's the play in my book, is whether he takes the bullet for Gunther and allows Gunther to sneak in and get the win, or he definitively is a guy who allows Gunther to win the match. We saw Ludwig get back on his good side last night by beating Matt Riddle. This Saturday, it's Giovanni who gets back on his good side by helping him retain the Intercontinental Championship against Drew McIntyre to continue that. Or Imperium gets chased off by Alpha Academy after a great match that we saw last night between Chad Gable and Gunther. Wouldn't mind running that back again. I think there's options here, but I'm going to go with Giovanni being the guy that helps Gunther retain and protect Drew. Now, you look like you had something to say there, SP3, about Ilya Dragunov.
No, because I was about to get mad at Steven Chambers, and I'm going to get mad at Rick Ucchino because he brought this up last week, and now you got Steven Chambers
last week.
Or no, 2 weeks ago, whatever week ago. The last time we had a show, last show. Okay. Sorry, not last week, last show. Got to specify. Last show. You brought it up there. Now you got Steven Chambers asking in this chat here, and none of y'all are going to acknowledge the fact that Ilya Dragunov basically said what I said when you said this on the show, and I said, that's stupid. That's stupid. That is stupid, ladies and gentlemen. It's stupid. John Cena and Randy Orton should not be tag team partners. John Cena and Edge should not be tag team partners. Ric Flair and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat should not be tag team partners. I'm just saying, when you have these longtime rivals that have these chemistry together as opponents, you don't do that. And Ilya Dragunov basically said that. He was like, yeah, I've heard that before, and that sounds stupid. He was like, that sounds stupid. He was like, no, that wouldn't make sense.
Bring up Ilya Dragunov joining Imperium? I don't remember talking
when we talked about Dragunov in the draft. So I don't think it was the last show, but it was we talked about Dragunov in the draft, and that was the rumor that was going on.
Okay, I maybe just brought up the rumor, but I never said that I was on board with that idea. Let's just get that out of the way right now. This is a matchup that I think is honestly the most interesting as far as finish is concerned on the card, because I could see this going one of three ways. Either the status quo remains the same and Seth Rollins continues to be the guy on Monday Night Raw. Finn Balor finally gets his revenge 7 years after the fact, and then Damian Priest cashes in, or simply Damian Priest just cashes in and walks away as the World Heavyweight Champion. Somehow, some way, SP3, I think Triple H is going to give us a big moment. Last year, we got a bunch of big splashes at SummerSlam. This is his year return. I think we're going to get some big moments on this show, even though two of the bigger matches have been pulled from this card, as we talked about earlier. I think this is one of them. I think this is one of the shock changes. I am going to predict that Finn Balor defeats Seth Rollins to get his revenge and capture the World Heavyweight Championship. And then Damian Priest cashes in on Finn to walk away as the World Heavyweight Champion. I think we get that big shock moment this weekend.
I don't think we get that shock moment. I think now, after last night's Raw, I usually like to dictate my predictions based on the go-home angle and based on Seth and Sammy winning in the main event and Seth standing tall once again and Finn not looking the best. It seems like the right time to pull the trigger. I think that it should look like Priest is about to cash in, which distracts Seth Rollins. Basically, the result that Priest intended for at Money in the Bank, and that leads to Finn Balor getting the win after maybe like the referee's distracted. Priest hits him with the briefcase. Seth Balor hits the coup de grace. 1, 2, 3. Thanks to Damian Priest, Finn Balor is the World Heavyweight Champion. And then you have the story of Finn basically having a loaded gun at his back the entire time. Like, he doesn't know if his friend is going to cash in on him.
I could get on board with that. I would not mind. I honestly, I think the option of this that I dislike the most is Seth walking out as the World Heavyweight Champion again. I think Judgment Day is taking over, as they should. This was the group that was the logical choice to assume the Bloodline role once the Bloodline dissolved the way that it has. They're still a major figure in this civil war over on SmackDown, but Judgment Day is consuming all three brands at this point. Now with Dirty Dom as the North American champion, it's got to be Finn or it's got to be Damian. They could rush it and put Damian on it, and I wouldn't be mad. They could slow play it and have Finn walk out with the title. I'm good either way. I'm perfectly fine. Matty, what do you think goes down this weekend?
I don't know if it's because we've been perhaps a bit spoiled in the Triple H era, where we've had that continuation of a very long Gunther title reign, and obviously Roman's been champion for 67 years now. I don't know whether it's just that, but I don't see Seth losing the World Heavyweight Championship so soon after winning it. I mean, in modern terms now, it's a very short reign that he's had. I would like to think maybe they establish him a little bit more and maybe move towards WrestleMania. But having heard your arguments, I think, again, I don't think you can afford to stunt Judgment Day's momentum anymore. They're on such a roll that maybe actually the inevitable outcome is the championship change. I don't know which way around it I like it most. I don't necessarily see Finn Balor winning the match. So, as you say, maybe there is a cash in or a false cash in, something. I think it's going to get messy, basically. There's going to be nothing clean at the end of this match.
Oh, for sure. There's going to be, Triple H is going to be all on his bullshit on this one. Like that is a stone cold fact on this one. And look, this is honestly why I'm almost advocating for Seth to drop the title, because it feels like every championship reign outside of the women's tag team titles is an endurance test anymore. Like, Roman Reigns has had it for 3 years. The Usos had it for over 600 days. Bianca Belair had it for over 430 days. And Gunther is now approaching the 400 and some odd days with the title and breaking Honky Tonk Man's record. And Austin Theory inconceivably has had the United States Championship for well over 250 days at this point. It's like, enough's enough. Not everything needs to be a damn endurance test. As long as it's a meaningful moment, I think it'll be more meaningful for Judgment Day to walk away with that championship. This is a... Yeah, go ahead. So I
was just going to say, before we move, I just think the one championship in WWE that needed a real establishment and a real cementing is this new World Heavyweight Championship, because people were so dubious about its introduction. I worry about it long term, I guess. If you end up having, say, Finn win and then a cash in, and you have successive title changes, I don't know. I just think it dilutes things a little bit. But maybe I'm thinking a little bit too intently about championships. Maybe it doesn't matter.
Length doesn't necessarily mean quality, by the way. Look at what they've done with the United States title and Austin Theory. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of get where Matty's coming from, but then I also have the counter argument, because I get them, trying to establish this new championship. But my counter argument is, what have they done that's really established this championship other than Seth? Basically, no one has ever earned an opportunity at this championship. They just either ask or answer an open challenge or challenge Seth even after they've lost their previous matchup, and he's feuded with Judgment Day. That's been it. that's pretty much been it. That's been his world championship reign. So that doesn't really tell me, oh, WWE is really concentrated on making this an important championship that we have big time matches for. No, nothing about their booking has told me that at all.
This next matchup, got to watch out for the Money in the Bank cash in as well. Hopefully Bayley and Io Sky get on this card somewhere, as at least, even if it's a failed attempt, not a cash in attempt, but like a failed attempt to actually cash in. It's been the 1 year anniversary here of Damage Control. But this is a matchup, guys, that has been built more around Bianca and Charlotte than it necessarily has the champion, Asuka, in this situation. Does that mean that Asuka's kind of a red herring here, where we all are kind of focusing on Charlotte and Bianca and maybe expecting one of them to walk away as the champion, and maybe they're just pulling the wool over our eyes, and it's really going to be Asuka that walks away? I genuinely don't know who's winning this match this weekend. It could be none of them. Io Sky could walk away as the WWE Women's Champion. I don't know. I genuinely don't know. So I'm going to go last and let you guys try to sway me. SP3, what do you think here?
Asuka retains, using the whole animosity between Bianca and Charlotte against them. And then Io Sky cashes in successfully to become the new WWE Women's Champion. And they can say, the 1 year after the debut of Damage Control, Io Sky has won the Women's Championship. This group has been chasing this title for a full year, and now Io Sky has finally done it.
I can't argue with a single word of that. I don't think there's any way that either Bianca Belair or Charlotte Flair walk out with the championship at all, because, as you say, their animosity is unfortunately the bigger story over the championship, which is a shame in itself. But a cash-in works, and for me, I guess maybe we lead towards a turn from Bayley, possibly. That's what I'm thinking. But yeah, absolutely, it's stone cold for Asuka all day on the weekend.
Charlotte Flair walks out with the championship because it's WWE, and if there's one thing they're going to do, they're going to book Charlotte over Asuka. So that is where I am going with that one. We got the final chapter here, because if there's one thing that Cody Rhodes can do, other than put out a damn good documentary, by the way, it is have a great series of matches. And this is the finale, we believe, between himself and Brock Lesnar, the big roadblock on his journey to finishing the story. SP3, is this a catapult for him to get some kind of a world title shot, or does he fall all the way back down to the bottom of the mountain of adversity and have to begin the climb all over again?
So you see, as you know, I said with Ronda and Shayna, where they stuck the landing so well, they made sense of a build that was confusing at times, boring at other times, not as interested for a lot of people at times. They made it all better by having a superb final landing. The final build for Cody Rhodes and Brock Lesnar was once again like last week, where I felt like I was like, I've seen this episode before. It was like, I've seen this before. I've seen Brock beats up Cody with steel steps, hurts Cody's arm. I've seen this before. Am I watching the same episode of Monday Night Raw? Everything else on the show was really good. This is probably the best go-home show Triple H has produced in his whole year. But this is the one where I was just like left with thinking about and absorbing 4 months of this whole story, where a lot of times it just felt like we just kept repeating. We just did A, B, to 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 B, C, 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 and now we're finally at D. I'm like, it feels like it's just, they have to have a great matchup. I don't think any of the matches have been great. I think they've been really good, but they haven't been great. They haven't been on the level of the previous trilogy that I can bring up from Cody Rhodes, which was him and Seth Rollins. It wasn't even on the level of, him and Brody Lee back in AEW, like him and Sammy Guevara back in AEW. I wouldn't even say it was as good as that. So they have to have a great matchup because they're at that point. Cody Rhodes has to win as well so he can move on from all of this, but they really have to stick the landing, and not having a stipulation for this after all the reports and how the build has been, it needs a stipulation. Unless they're going to announce it when they make the introductions. I don't know what's going on here.
That's what Steven Chambers said in the chat. Disappointed, no stipulation for Cody the Brock, although he is picking Cody. To me, SP3, the reason why these matches haven't landed is because of the finishes. The finishes have just not been great. They have not been definitive, and a great match needs a great ending. And so far, these first two have not really had them. And this one needs one. And I don't know how they get there. How does Cody definitively beat Brock? Is going to be interesting.
And why is it? I'm sorry, but why is it that WWE is the only company that literally books finishes for rematches and books finishes that that make matches not perfect? Like, I know every WWE fan, every great match they want to give 5 stars to. Reason why a lot of these matches aren't 5 stars is because they book it not to be. Like, I don't understand why WWE is the only company that does that. And you're absolutely right. The finishes to Cody and Brock have been all about setting up the next matchup. Yeah. It hasn't been about having a great matchup.
It's Brock and Lashley all over again. And we never even got the finish to that. Go ahead, Matty.
Yeah, again, you've kind of taken the words out of my mouth. I was just thinking there, we have this thing where WWE's big marquee matches really are only to set up the next big marquee match, and that's what we've had here. I don't see any way that Cody doesn't win, because I don't see any advantage to Brock Lesnar winning this match whatsoever. It sounds again like Brock might be due another break, and he's going to go off on his way again, and I assume perhaps we'll have the stellar match that we're all pulling for. Cody's going to win, and either at SummerSlam or the Raw after, someone is going to come back and thinking maybe a Randy Orton, and there's going to be another roadblock for Cody somewhere, isn't there? There's going to be something like that. Cody will win, but whether it's decisive enough because of something like that, that's what I'm thinking. Again, it's got to be messy rather than clean, hasn't it? And WWE has this obsession over repetition at times, and one of the favorite things they seem to enjoy repeating at the moment is I'm not sure exactly what it is they're doing with Cody, and Cody seems on board, and he toes the line, and he's very supportive in terms of his booking and the way he's been presented, but he must be getting pretty cheesed off with the fact that not only did he not take the title from Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, but with every feud and with every event since, he's moving further and further and further away from that. So yes, he wins at SummerSlam, but he's getting further back towards the back of the line rather than moving forward, I'm afraid.
2 things, Matty, to answer your question, is why the WWE's big marquee matchups is only used to set up the next big marquee matchups. Triple H said himself, the story never ends, man. It's always about what's next. It's always about that next chapter. We can't have a happy ending because there's no endings, Matty. It never ends. It is the never-ending story. By the way, you brought up Randy Orton. Perfect time for an update for Fightful Select on Randy Orton, by the way. I think enough time has passed that I can share this now. Randy Orton is healing up from fusion surgery, but they are not hearing that he is back just yet. He has resumed working out, has not resumed bumping. When asked about a possible return for Randy Orton at SummerSlam, WWE sources told Fightful not to count on it. So typically, if somebody's coming back, they don't say anything, right? They're not going to flat out lie. They're not going to feed Sean bad information. And if they do feed Sean bad information, he's really good about sourcing it. So I would not expect Randy to come back this weekend. But Chase maybe shines a light on something. Maybe Bray Wyatt steps in and we get Cody and Bray Wyatt in the triumphant return, and that carries him even further down the rabbit hole of madness, quite literally. And again, it's just, he's on a raft and he's swimming out into the middle of the ocean and he's trying to get back to the island of relevancy, but the tide just keeps pulling him further and further away. At this point, I don't know if Cody comes back by WrestleMania 40 to take on Roman Reigns. I just don't know.
I think he will. It's not like he's lost momentum. They just put him on a
No,
treadmill. He's just in the same spot. They just put him on a treadmill. He's in the same spot that he was.
He's a gerbil. He's the gerbil in the ball.
And yeah, he's a gerbil in the ball, but the light that was underneath him, that spark, they talk about being hot. That light is flickering though now. That's not as the flame is not as profound as it once was.
Final match of the night. Tribal combat. Everything is on the line. The WWE Universal Championship, being the tribal chief of the bloodline. It's Roman Reigns. It's Jey Uso. There has been a groundswell of people out there, at least on social media anyway, that really want Jey Uso to win this match. They want Jey Uso to be the guy who takes down Roman Reigns. And this is now the fourth time that this has happened, that there has been an overwhelming support for one person to take down Roman Reigns. It had to be Drew McIntyre at Clash of the Castle. It had to be Sami Zayn in Montreal. It had to be Cody Rhodes, and should have been Cody Rhodes at the main event of WrestleMania. And it now has to be Jey Uso. You kind of have to give credit to WWE on this one, that they keep coming up with these dudes that just have to be the one that beats Roman Reigns. I do not believe Jey Uso will be the one to beat Roman Reigns. To steal a line from SP3 that he's already said on this show, and I 100% agree with him, Jey Uso wins the title, and then what? Where do you go from there? The story with Roman Reigns ain't over. He is in, let's see, at WrestleMania, he said he's only in the third inning. Well, guess what? He's just into the bottom of the fifth right now and just gave up his first hit of the ball game, and his team is still winning 8-0. All right, like this, he ain't even sweating at this point. Jey Uso already got his moment when he pinned Roman Reigns. That was the money angle. That meant more, honestly, than winning the championship. People will remember. People are going to remember when Roman eventually drops the title. But people will also remember the first time he got beat in more than 3 years, and the fact that it was main event Jey Uso who did it. So that is his win. Roman is winning this. I don't know who the next challenger is after this. He is not advertised for any of like the next 3 pay-per-views, but that's not anything new. He didn't defend the title after SummerSlam between then and December last year. So we'll see where things go from there. Maybe the United States title gets thrown into the limelight over on SmackDown, and that's the angle that they take with things. I don't know. Maybe Jey Uso can win the United States Championship if Santos Escobar doesn't, or if LA Knight doesn't. I don't know. I do know Roman Reigns is walking out with the Universal Championship this Saturday. SP3, what do you think?
I wouldn't be surprised if Roman Reigns gets added to like a Survivor Series or something like that, but we shall see. I think that Roman Reigns does retain the undisputed WWE Universal Championship, but does he retain the status of the Tribal Chief? I think that he wins in a way that they question his status, and that it leads to more matches between him and Jey in different combinations. And how I see the finish, I think we're going to see all smoke and mirrors, because it's a no DQ tribal combat match, meaning that hopefully we don't need a ref bump. You don't need a ref bump, ladies and gentlemen, because it's no DQ. So we don't need a damn ref bump in a Roman Reigns matches. I get hot flashes whenever it happens. I have PTSD because nothing matters until that ref bump happens. But yeah, hopefully you don't need that, and they can have a great matchup. Solo will get involved. Heyman will be at ringside. Jamie will be back, and I think that's the key. And I think for the second time this year, Jimmy Uso aims for this time Roman Reigns, and he hits Jey, and that leads to Jey losing to Roman, where you can do at Payback Jimmy versus Jey one-on-one. Even though it was an accident, it's still, you could still have Heyman showing up even though Roman's not around, and he's instigating everything between them, and he works it out with Adam Pearce to make them go one-on-one at Payback. And he's going to be kind of the shit stirrer that's kind of building the heat and the tension between them on the way to Payback, and how everything breaks out at Payback. You can lead to a rematch at Fastlane. You're going to need this bloodline storyline to keep going on. And how you do it is you set up Jimmy and Jay in with the finish of this matchup.
What do you think, Matty?
For me, it speaks, and you said this, Rick, it speaks to the strength of WWE storytelling with the bloodline, at least. That really, if we're honest, and we look ourselves in the mirror in a quiet moment, and we whisper it, everyone knows that Roman wins and retains at the weekend. Everyone knows that that's the result. But it's been such a well-built story that we actually think, well, maybe. We know it's not really happening, but we're thinking, well, maybe possibly. So congratulations, as you say, to them for that, because it's creating that doubt. But seriously, as a bottom line, there's no way that type of change happens here, and it shouldn't. And I think you made the point, SP3, there. It's almost not about the undisputed WWE Championship now. I think even Roman said on, I'm not sure if it was last week on SmackDown, maybe the week before, he even said it's not about this anymore. He even actually said that out loud. It's not about the championship. I don't think SummerSlam is about the championship. I think it's the case that Roman walks away with the gold, but there's the bigger picture that maybe we see the elders in whatever form they take at SummerSlam. Maybe there's a changing of the guard. Maybe there's some sort of ceremonial moment. They don't like the way Roman wins, perhaps. And maybe there's some great shame to be thrown Roman's way as the show closes at the weekend. Maybe that's the bigger picture in the story for SummerSlam rather than the championship.
Just came up with plan B because of what Matty says. Roman wins because of Solo again, and you have the elders come out, and you think they're going to put the lay on Roman, and they say no, and they put it on Solo, because that's now twice this year. It's Solo is the reason he has the undisputed Universal Championship, and they put the lay on Solo, and that's how you end the show.
I think that is extremely likely, because if you look at the subtleties of this storyline, every single time that they show a crack in Roman's armor, it is Solo who is there as the Rock, pun intended, because I know people are expecting me to ask about him, and I will ask about him in a minute here. But he is the Rock. He is the guy who stays on task and gets Roman back up on the horse. The tag team match against the Usos, where he thought that he had it won and he didn't, and he starts having a mental breakdown in the middle of the ring. It was Solo who looked over him like, motherfucker, what are you doing? Get your ass up. We got work to do. Solo has always been that guy. Roman did not add Solo to the bloodline. The elders did. He always answers to the elders. So if the elders decide, hey, Roman's not our guy anymore because we don't trust him, but we have seen the work that you're doing, I think that's brilliant storytelling. And that adds another layer, because now you can move on to Roman versus Solo. You can move on to Jimmy versus Jay, whichever way you want to do that. You can continue this bloodline civil war as they continue to fraction apart from one another. The other caveat to this is, and Stephen Chambers brought it up in the chat, Hollywood's on a strike right now. There is nothing that is keeping Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson from showing up in Detroit to finally return to WWE. There's no movie set that he has to be on. There's no nothing. They are on strike, and there's no sign that that is ending anytime soon. So he's not going to wrestle. He's probably not ready to wrestle, at least from a cardio standpoint. But could you have The Rock come in to set something up for Survivor Series? If he has no commitments on the books for the next 3 months? Absolutely, you could. I don't know if that's the direction they decide to go, but I would say there is a more realistic chance that The Rock shows up this weekend than any other time that he's been rumored to show up before. I would still put it at less than 15%, but it's a higher chance than what we've had before.
Nah. I'm over it. It didn't happen at WrestleMania 39. I'm over it. I'm not getting excited about it. Not going to think about it until it happens. If it happens, maybe I'll get excited. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't care. My answer is
Bringing back big superstars at the end of SummerSlam is what WWE has done the last few years, including with Roman Reigns. They did it with John. They did it with Brock. Could they do it with Rock, Matty? I don't know. It's a legitimate question now. It is a legitimate question.
Yeah, I think we spent years talking about this leading to Roman v. The Rock. You know, the Roman build, the Roman character, the tribal chief was building towards Roman and Rock. And I think we've known for a while now that it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But actually, I think we're at a point now where I almost feel like the story doesn't need it. I mean, these guys, you think of the Usos, you think of Solo, and everything else in between. I don't want to sound disrespectful. Rock's one of the greatest of all time, and it would be great to see him again at WWE. But for all that time we spent thinking, yeah, that's the dream match, Roman and Rock, I think they can carry on without him now. I don't really see where I get how this will sound, but I don't really see how he's a natural fit for the story now. They haven't done it already. I don't see why they do it now.
It's a fair point. So we're all on the Roman train?
I think so.
The reign of terror continues. SP3, what you got going on for True Heel Heat for SummerSlam weekend?
The reigns of terror continues. Yes, check out the True Heel Heat YouTube channel. That is TRU-NO-E. Check it out over there. We got plenty of great content for SummerSlam week, 7 days a week. I'll be live tomorrow at 12:05 p.m. Eastern time with our WWE SummerSlam 2023 preview. It will be myself, Romeo, and special guest Graham Matthews of Bleacher Report joining us live to preview the card. I'll also be live on Thursday for the Dynamite review, Friday for Dark Side of the Ring review, Saturday flagship podcast. We got special guests. I'll announce it here. Dutch Mantel joining us on the Saturday flagship podcast. And then Sunday, we'll be reviewing SummerSlam.
Matty, what you got going on?
Well, I'm not topping that for a start. I'll be sitting down tomorrow with Sheamus to talk all things WWE and SummerSlam. So check me out on Twitter and Daily Star, the home of fun stuff here in the UK, and plenty of your top wrestling coverage as well. But thanks for having me, guys. This has been fun. I feel like we've got a lot of angst and a lot of good energy tonight. So thanks very much for having me on.
Yeah. No, by the way, I did write an article today. I wasn't planning on it, but I could not sleep last night. So at 1 a.m., I got up and cranked out 2,500 words and put it up on cagesidesseat.com. So it's there now. It is my pinned tweet up. You can follow me at Rick Ucchino, and you can follow me on Threads too. That's a thing still, I think. Same handle. Same handle. You can follow me there as well to get all my work for Cage Side Seats and for here as well. I am actually shipping out to Detroit, Michigan. Tomorrow, I will be speaking with numerous WWE superstars throughout the week. Some of that will be coming out ahead of SummerSlam. Most of that will be coming out after SummerSlam, but it is still a good reason why you should subscribe to the Believe in Pro Wrestling YouTube channel and follow me on Twitter as well. Matty, been a blast. Thank you so much, sir. SP3, thank you as well. We'll be back normal time, same time, right here, 2:00 next Tuesday, recapping SummerSlam and all the big doings that's going on. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Really appreciate it. Thank you for chiming in. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy professional wrestling. Enjoy SummerSlam. This has been the Believe in Pro Wrestling podcast brought to you by Bet Online. Take care, everybody.